It started with shadows in the sky. At first, people thought it was just strange clouds. But then the shadows moved, and the entire world realized something terrifying. Those weren't clouds. Within minutes, every satellite confirmed the truth. Earth wasn't alone anymore. Thousands of alien warships had surrounded our planet. Humanity had just met its first alien empire. Humanity fought back and lost. Our greatest weapons couldn't even scratch their shields. But deep beneath the Nevada desert, one last idea was about to launch. The aliens thought humans were weak, fragile, primitive, easy to conquer. But they didn't know one thing. One human had already decided he wasn't coming back. The first sign of the invasion wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't even a message. It was a shadow. Across cities around the world, people noticed something strange happening in the sky. The sunlight began to dim, as if a giant cloud had moved across the sun. At first, no one thought much of it. Weather changes happen all the time. But this time was different. The shadow didn't move like a cloud. It grew. People started stepping outside, looking upward with confusion. Some pointed their phones toward the sky, recording what looked like enormous shapes drifting slowly above the atmosphere. And then the realization hit. Those shapes weren't clouds. They were ships. Massive alien warships stretched across the sky like floating mountains made of dark metal. Their surfaces glowed with strange blue lights and unfamiliar symbols. They were silent, hovering motionless as if the laws of gravity didn't apply to them. Cars stopped in the middle of streets. Entire crowds gathered on sidewalks. Millions of people stared upward, unable to look away. The sun itself began disappearing behind the silhouettes of alien vessels. Within minutes, every satellite and radar station confirmed what people were seeing. The ships were real, and they weren't human. News broadcasts across the planet immediately interrupted their programs. Scientists, astronomers, and military officials all reached the same conclusion. Humanity was no longer alone. The alien fleet continued spreading across the sky, positioning itself over major cities and continents. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't firing weapons. It was simply watching. The silence made everything worse. No one knew what the aliens wanted. Governments declared global emergencies. Fighter jets launched into the air. Military bases scrambled to prepare defenses. But the aircraft looked tiny compared to the colossal alien warships hovering high above the planet. Inside those ships, unknown commanders were already studying Earth, scanning its technology, observing its species, analyzing its defenses. Humanity had spent centuries searching the stars for signs of intelligent life. Scientists had sent messages into space, hoping someone out there might answer. No one expected the answer to arrive like this. Suddenly, overwhelmingly, without warning, phones buzzed around the world with emergency alerts telling people to stay calm and remain indoors. But calm was impossible when the sky itself had been conquered. And deep inside the alien fleet, their leaders had already made their first assessment. To them, humanity looked small, fragile, primitive. In their eyes, Earth wasn't a threat. It was simply another world waiting to be conquered. And the invasion had only just begun. With their command ship destroyed, the alien fleet fell into chaos. Ships drifted out of formation as their coordinated network collapsed. Navigation systems struggled to reconnect. Communication signals overlapped and interfered with each other. Without centralized control, the massive armada suddenly became disorganized. Human defense systems on Earth noticed the change immediately. Military radar tracked the movement of alien ships as they began shifting positions. For the first time since the invasion began, the fleet looked uncertain. Some vessels attempted to regroup. Others started moving away from Earth entirely. Then something even more surprising happened. The alien fleet began retreating. Large warships turned away from the planet and activated their hyperspace drives. Bright blue energy portals opened across space as ships prepared to jump away. One by one, they disappeared into the darkness. Human observers around the world watched in disbelief. The invasion force that had seemed unstoppable only hours earlier was leaving. Earth had survived. News stations across the planet broadcast the images live. Alien warships vanishing into hyperspace. Crowds gathered in cities, cheering as the sky slowly cleared. For the first time since the invasion began, sunlight returned without shadows of alien vessels blocking it. The battle had been won, not by massive fleets, not by powerful weapons, but by the sacrifice of one human pilot. Across the alien fleet, confusion spread instantly. The command ship had been the central hub of the invasion. Every fleet movement, every strategy, every communication flowed through it. And now it was gone, destroyed by a single human spacecraft. Alien officers stared at their consoles as warning messages filled their systems. Command signals were lost. Fleet coordination had collapsed. For the first time in centuries, the Karthik's dominion faced something completely unexpected. Failure. Inside one of the remaining warships, the alien commanders reviewed the final moments of the battle. A holographic replay showed the human ship accelerating toward the command vessel. The alien officers watched the footage again and again. They still couldn't understand it. Why would a single pilot attack a fleet that powerful? Why would someone knowingly sacrifice themselves? Among the Karthik species, survival was always the highest priority. Their strategies relied on careful calculations and logical decisions. But humans didn't follow those rules. Humans were willing to risk everything, even their own lives. The alien leaders began studying humanity in a new way, not as a weak species, but as an unpredictable one. And in warfare, unpredictability could be incredibly dangerous. The Karthiks had conquered hundreds of civilizations, yet none of them had ever fought like this. None had ever sent a single pilot on a suicide mission capable of destroying an entire invasion command. The aliens finally understood something important. Humans weren't weak. They were reckless. And sometimes, reckless courage was enough to change the outcome of a war. While the world panicked above ground, deep beneath the Nevada desert, something extraordinary waited in silence. Hidden inside a classified underground facility was a project the public had never heard about. It was called Aegis. The Aegis project had started years earlier as an experimental attempt to push human space technology far beyond its limits. Governments around the world secretly funded it, hoping one day humanity might need something more powerful than traditional spacecraft. But most scientists believed the project was too dangerous. The ship's reactor used an unstable fusion engine capable of producing enormous bursts of energy. Its weapons system included electromagnetic rail cannons designed to fire projectiles at nearly the speed of light. And its armor was made from experimental nanomaterials that could adapt to damage in real time. In theory, the Aegis was the most advanced spacecraft humanity had ever designed. In practice, it had never been tested. The engines were unpredictable, the power systems unstable. Simulations suggested the ship might tear itself apart during its first real flight. Because of these risks, the project had been quietly shut down. Until now, inside the underground hangar, the massive prototype spacecraft rested beneath bright industrial lights. Engineers and scientists stood around it, staring at the news broadcasts playing on nearby monitors. Alien warships hovered above Earth. Human defenses were failing. The planet needed something extraordinary, and the Aegis might be the only option left. Technicians began powering up the ship's systems for the first time in years. Control panels flickered to life. The reactor core began humming softly as energy flowed through the vessel's circuits. Alarms sounded as diagnostics ran across the screens. The engineers knew the risks. This ship was never meant to fight a real battle. But the world outside was already losing a war it couldn't win. If humanity had any chance at all, it would come from bold ideas and impossible gambles. The Aegis represented exactly that. A last hope. A weapon built not from certainty, but from desperation. And soon, someone would have to climb inside it. Someone willing to fly a machine that might explode the moment it left the ground. Someone willing to face an entire alien fleet alone. Because sometimes saving a planet requires a person crazy enough to try the impossible. While people on Earth stared upward in shock, scientists and astronomers were already studying the invasion from another perspective. Space. Within minutes, observatories around the world turned their telescopes toward orbit. Satellites began transmitting images back to Earth. What they revealed was far worse than anyone expected. The ships visible from the ground were only a fraction of the alien force. Beyond the atmosphere, stretching across space itself, was the true alien fleet. Thousands of warships surrounded the planet in a massive ring formation. From space, the Earth looked like a blue sphere trapped inside a cage of dark metallic vessels. Each alien ship was enormous. Many were larger than human aircraft carriers. Others dwarfed even those, resembling floating cities covered in glowing engines and alien weapons. Humanity had never seen technology like this before. Military analysts quickly began calculating the situation, and the results were terrifying. Even if every nation on Earth combined its entire military power, it wouldn't be enough. The alien armada had already achieved complete orbital control. No human spacecraft could escape the planet. No reinforcements could arrive. Earth was surrounded. Inside command centers across the world, global leaders watched the incoming data in stunned silence. Radar systems tracked the movement of alien vessels. Every calculation came to the same conclusion. Humanity had already lost the strategic advantage. But something about the alien fleet's behavior was strange. They weren't attacking. They weren't destroying cities or military bases. Instead, they appeared to be observing, analyzing, almost as if they were studying the planet before making their next move. Then suddenly, every screen on Earth flickered. Televisions turned on automatically. Smartphones lit up. Digital billboards in cities began displaying the same strange symbol, a glowing alien emblem. Moments later, a voice echoed across every device on the planet. Calm, cold, and completely confident. We are the Carthix Dominion. Our civilization spans hundreds of star systems. Your planet is now under our observation. The voice continued, speaking flawless human languages as if it had studied them for years. Your species has been evaluated. Your technology is primitive. Your defenses are insufficient. The message paused for a moment before delivering its final words. Resistance will result in extinction. Submit peacefully, and your planet will be preserved. Across the world, millions of people listened in disbelief. Humanity had finally made contact with alien life, and the first message they received was a warning. Earth had become the newest target of a galactic empire. At first, no one on Earth understood what had happened. The explosion in orbit was massive, brighter than anything ever seen. Then the alien ships stopped moving. Across the entire planet, telescopes watched in disbelief. The Carthix command vessel had been destroyed. Without its command signal, the fleet's coordination collapsed. Alien ships began drifting out of formation. Some collided with each other. Others retreated into deep space. The invincible armada was suddenly confused, disorganized, vulnerable. Human forces immediately seized the opportunity. Remaining defense systems fired everything they had. Missiles, railguns, experimental weapons. Without coordinated shields, several alien ships were destroyed. For the first time, humanity was winning. Panic spread among the Carthix commanders. Their invasion strategy depended entirely on centralized control, and a single human had shattered it. Within hours, the alien fleet began retreating. Massive ships jumped back into hyperspace. Others fled toward the outer solar system. The invasion was over. Earth had survived, but the hero who made it possible was gone. Marcus Hale never returned. No escape pod was found. No wreckage survived the collision. But his sacrifice had changed history. Across the galaxy, other civilizations heard the story. One human, one ship, one impossible victory. The Carthix Dominion learned something that day. Humans weren't weak. They were unpredictable, and in war, that made them terrifying. Years passed after the invasion. Humanity never forgot the day the alien fleet arrived, but they also never forgot the person who stopped it. Near the site of the underground facility in the Nevada desert, a monument was built. A massive statue stood beneath the open sky. It showed a human pilot standing beside a small spacecraft, looking upward toward stars. Visitors from around the world traveled to see it. Families, scientists, soldiers. Everyone who stood before the monument remembered the same story. The story of a single human who refused to surrender. Historians later confirmed the truth behind the battle. The alien command ship had controlled the entire invasion. Destroying it caused the fleet to lose coordination, forcing them to retreat before humanity could exploit their weakness further. One action had changed the outcome of the war. The pilot's name became known across Earth. Marcus Hale. Schools taught his story. Documentaries were made about the battle. Artists created paintings of the moment his ship struck the alien flagship. But perhaps the most important legacy wasn't the victory itself. It was what humanity learned from it. The universe was no longer empty. Somewhere out, there were powerful alien civilizations capable of conquering entire worlds. But humanity had proven something that day. Even when facing impossible odds, even when standing against overwhelming power, humans would still fight. And sometimes, all it takes to change the course of history is one person brave enough to try the impossible.